I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, January the 29th, 2014. A Palestinian man who opened fire at an army post in the West Bank today was shot and killed by the IDF. The IDF reported that the man fired a dozen rounds at the outpost northeast of Ramallah before being hit by return fire by IDF soldiers. The Palestinians identified the man as 21-year-old Muhammad Mubarak from the Jalazun refugee camp near Ramallah. The IDF spokesperson's department said that they didn't know yet if the man acted alone or whether he was a member of any terror group. No IDF soldiers were injured during the attack. Rumblings continue in the Israeli government over the conflict between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's Trade and Economy Minister Naftali Bennett. As we reported to you earlier this week, it all began when Bennett criticized Netanyahu for comments he made about Jewish settlers remaining in the West Bank if they choose under Palestinian rule in a potential peace deal. Many argue that the Prime Minister's statements were said for rhetorical purposes and intended to spark a reaction from Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. However, it was Bennett's reaction that caused a stir in the government. Bennett had slammed Netanyahu for his statements denouncing the idea of Jews living under Palestinian sovereignty. And last night, Ynet reports that Bennett further criticized the Prime Minister at the annual conference of the Institute for National Security held at Tel Aviv University, where he said, "You know why Israelis can't live under Palestinian rule? Because the Palestinians would kill them." After which the Prime Minister's office said that Bennett must apologize for his remarks, otherwise there would be consequences. The Jerusalem Post reports that a source within Bennett's Jewish Home Party responded, saying that they would not apologize, but that they would send a message of compromise to the Prime Minister. Israeli President Shimon also addressed the security conference in a Q&A session today. Peres said the central issue that should guide the peace process with the Palestinians was for Israel to remain a Jewish and democratic state, and that it was preferable to have a smaller Jewish state than a larger one whose Jewish identity would ultimately be overwhelmed. Peres said the only way to achieve this was the two-state solution, a Jewish state and a Palestinian state living side by side in peace. He also addressed the issue of the threat from Iran during the conference and said that if Iran's leaders think they can use the recently signed P5+1 agreement as a cover to continue their nuclear ambitions, they are greatly mistaken. And President Obama addressed the Iran issue last night during his State of the Union address. The president took a hard line regarding new sanctions against Iran, saying that he would veto any legislation that would threaten diplomatic efforts with the Islamic Republic.
The sanctions that we put in place help make this opportunity possible. But let me be clear. If this Congress sends me a new sanctions bill now that threatens to derail these talks, I will veto it. For the sake of our national security, we must give diplomacy a chance to succeed.
Obama also addressed U.S. efforts regarding peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians.
As we speak, American diplomacy is supporting Israelis and Palestinians as they engage in the difficult but necessary talks to end the conflict there, to achieve dignity and an independent state for Palestinians, and lasting peace and security for the state of Israel, a Jewish state that knows America will always be at their side.
Senior New York Times analyst Thomas Friedman wrote in his column published today about what he believes U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry's framework plan for peace between Israel and the Palestinians will look like. In the piece, Friedman says the Kerry plan will likely call for a phased Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank based on the 1967 lines, but will have some Jewish settlement blocks remaining under Israeli control, and that compensation would be given to the Palestinians for this land. Friedman writes of the plan, it will call for the Palestinians to have a capital in Arab East Jerusalem and for Palestinians to recognize Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people. It will not include any right of return for Palestinian refugees into Israel proper. Friedman said Kerry hopes that both Netanyahu and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas agree to the framework agreement as the basis of further negotiations, even if they disagree with some of the details. At the beginning of the column, which is entitled "Why Kerry is Scary," Friedman says the Secretary of State is daring to test whether the situation between Israel and the Palestinians is beyond diplomacy. He ends the column writing, "So that's where we are. Israelis and Palestinians need to understand that Kerry's mission is the last train to a negotiated two-state solution. The next train," he writes, "is the one coming at them." And approximately 30 faith leaders and scholars met earlier this week with U.S. Secretary of State Kerry to discuss interfaith engagement around the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. The White House and the State Department initiated the meeting, which took place at Georgetown University and included Christian, Jewish, and Muslim leaders. Kerry expressed his hope at the meeting for the peace process and the additional benefits he felt that Israel would gain from it, including the ability to expand its relations with the entire Arab community, expand trade with foreign countries, and to overall benefit Israel's economy. The chairman of Yad Vashem, Israel's living memorial to the Holocaust, will receive the Presidential Medal of Distinction tomorrow. Avner Shalev is one of several recipients that will be given the award from Israeli President Shimon Peres in recognition of his public service and leadership of the Holocaust Memorial and Research Institution for the past 2 decades. The prestigious honor was first awarded in 2012 at President Peres' initiative. It is bestowed upon rare individuals who have made, quote, unique and extraordinary contributions to Tikkun Olam, or repairing the world, or to Israel's society, culture, and international status, and who personally exemplify the traits of entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, and vision. Former Supreme Court Justice in Israel Meir Shamgar, who heads the President's Advisory Committee, said of Shalev he works tirelessly employing innovative and original methods to instill vital Jewish, Zionist, and universal values within Israeli and global consciousness, primarily through significant and meaningful Holocaust remembrance. Previous recipients of the award include U.S. Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, Henry Kissinger, and Zubin Mehta. The Medal of Distinction recipients this year also include Nobel Peace Laureate Professor Elie Wiesel, Director Steven Spielberg for his contribution to cinema and to the memory of the Holocaust, Brigadier General in Reserve Avigdor Kahalani for his contribution to Israel's security, Rabbi Eli Melech Führer, who created a unique medical network in Israel, Dr. Tzvi Tabor, who created the National Physical Laboratory of Israel, Avi Naor, the founder of an association for safer driving in the country, and a member of Israel's security services who needs to remain anonymous. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Wednesday, January the 29th, at 7 p.m., actor Jon Voight headlines the Shaarei Tzedek Medical Center Gala. At 8, Israeli Finance Minister Yair Lapid and former opposition leader Sheli Yachimovich address the Jewish Federations of North America's General Assembly in Jerusalem. Then at 9, Israeli consulate's Shachar Azani offers his perspective on Israel. He later sits down with Innovation Africa's Sivanya Ari for a new program called Eye on Israel. That's at 10. And at 10:30, Executive Director of the American Jewish Committee David Harris addresses the Los Angeles World Affairs Council. That's all coming up here tonight on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, January the 29th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.